Hey, I'm Dr. James Null. I help my clients heal and reverse their autoimmune and gut issues, all naturally using mostly foods. So, the following is a brief interview I did with my client, Selena. She was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and her goal was to be able to come off of her thyroid meds. She did not want to have to rely on them for the rest of her life. She had done other programs, she had worked with other natural docs, and she hadn't been able to come off her meds. After 6 weeks of working together with me, she was able to do that, and she's getting great results. So if you're in a similar situation, definitely check out this video. It's got a ton of great insight that she shares. Enjoy. Could you just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
My name is Selena. I am a baker and a web developer in Canada.
Can you tell me about like what your worst moment was before we started working together? And one of the main issues of why we started working together was for your thyroid health. So what was there a one time that stands out to you where like just a not good situation with your health related to your thyroid?
Yeah, a few years ago, after I was already diagnosed and after I had already done the second opinion, and had a huge investigation done with all these doctors, some of the best in the world, endocrinologists. I ended up a couple of years later, ended up having like heart palpitations, like really bad. Didn't know where it was coming from. My dog noticed, so he was really worried. He would stay really close to me. And then I ended up in the hospital. They had done like a whole panel of testing on everything, like my blood, the white blood cell, like everything, and came back with no results. They did do an ECG on me. They did see the heart palpitation in the lower chamber of my heart, but again, they didn't know what was causing it. They ended up, just kicking me into the hospital basically with like, no answers, no nothing. So I would say that it was like the worst time because I thought I was dying and so that would be the worst of that.
Gotcha. And did that turn out to be related to your thyroid? And can you tell me a little bit about what your thyroid diagnosis was and what you ended up doing to try to treat it before we started working together?
Sure. So I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's in around 2017. I wasn't really sure where it had come from. That was my first question to the doctors is like, wow, I have this. I don't know what it is. How did I get it? Where did it come from? How do I get rid of it? And basically the answer was like, well, you just have to take this pill and everybody does it. And we're not really sure where it comes from. And nobody knows. And take this pill. And I kind of felt like it was a life sentence, which was really scary. And the medication I was taking was Synthroid originally. But if I didn't take my Synthroid like at 7 a.m. every day, I would start getting really sick, like vertigo, nausea, not being able to get out of my bed. It was really bad. Then I switched to desiccated, which actually built up in my system over time or whatever. Anyways, I wasn't feeling as bad on it. But again, it was like I was addicted to this medication. So yeah, I went to a lot of doctors. I even tried like a really well-known supplements person or not, I don't know, like natural, like foods, boil your spinach sort of person on Instagram. And then was put on supplements again and deparasitation, all these other things. Nothing was working. It was just the same thing over and over again. And it's that besides, the thumbnail, I had a deformed, thumbnail where all the doctors were saying, you're absolutely malnutrition. Which I thought that's impossible because I'm taking supplements. So these are all things that I was trying to do to fix the thyroid, but for whatever reason, wasn't absorbing nutrients. The medication wasn't really doing any good. I was in and out of the hospital, no answers, diagnosed, but no end date, and feeling like crap every day. So,
Gotcha. And so you, with the natural thyroid, the desiccated thyroid, did you have a situation where if you even missed like a day or two that you would kind of feel the effects, like you would not feel good?
Yeah, I wasn't stuck to like the 24 hours on the dot, but definitely overall. And, besides that, my health just continued. It was just declining. The numbers and the blood work and everything. Nothing was really coming back in a good way.
Gotcha. And then where are you at now with your thyroid health, your medication? How are you feeling now?
So I'm feeling like a 10 out of 10 today. But I think that we're around week 10 together. But I would say if I went back like at around week 6 with you, I just stopped taking the medication. I had already kind of started cutting it down pill by pill with the anticipation, that our protocols were working, but I also had to test it, right? To really, be confident that we were going in the right direction. So it started off with one and then two. So I did that on my choice. Nothing to do associated with my doctor. Obviously, we wouldn't suggest anybody else to do that. I had just been on the medication for so long. I knew how to gauge like what I was feeling. But yeah, it was around week 6, and yeah, I remember just not taking the pill and saying, I'll see how I feel. If I don't feel okay, I'm just going to obviously take the pill again. I'm not stressing myself out about it. It's not a big deal, Health is number one. But I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel heart palpitations, didn't feel any anxiety, didn't feel any vertigo. I mean, essentially, inflammation, toxins, they do so much. So, the protocols really, helped clear it out enough where my body can start taking care of itself. So, very happy with that.
Awesome, awesome. What was the biggest eye opener from the protocols that you and I have been working on? Was there anything that was just like very different from the things that you had tried before?
Um, like seeing food as like a healer and food as a friend is probably the biggest thing. I think for like my whole life, I don't really think I was educated properly on how to eat. Like I was more Canadian tuna sandwich, meat and potatoes, like just all bread, meat, mayonnaise, sauce, gravy, everything focused. So I think when I started seeing like, hey, it's like, why don't you take a look at these fruits and vegetables? And I was like, oh, what are we gonna do with these, right? It's like, well, why don't you try to take the, fruit is a luxury for everybody, I think. I think that people see fruit as being like candy, because they're like in the food kingdom, it's like it's sweet, it's expensive, it's like bright colors like Skittles or whatever. So, you kind of look at it and you say, yeah, okay, I'll have one or two pieces as a dessert at the very end of the day or something. Even smoothies, you may have one a day, but you don't look at fruit as really being like your friend. So I feel like the fruits and the salads and, the potatoes, and you can have everything. It's just you're making it like in a different way. So I was more surprised with the fact that I could eat so much. I mean, really, like the bigger thing is like eating, like and making sure that I'm eating again and again and again because you don't even realize an hour and a half goes by and you're like, have you eaten anything? You're like, I felt like I just ate. You're like, well, eat again.
Yeah, it's definitely different that you start to you want to eat lots of foods throughout the day, right? It's not about restricting. That's awesome. So what mistakes do you think that lots of people make if they have like these chronic mystery health issues or Hashimoto's or other autoimmune issues? What mistakes are they making right now? What mistakes did knowing what you know, what are some things that you would go back and change?
Well, if you had a stronger presence on, on my social media, I probably would have done it like years ago. But I don't know. I couldn't answer that, like really it comes down to the like the person that you're dealing with, like the education that you're getting. How reasonable does it sound, and for me, it made sense. I knew it was food related. I knew I wasn't getting nutrients. I just didn't know how to go about it. So definitely having somebody show me and educate me, because again, so I didn't have that education growing up. So I didn't know where to start. So yeah.
Sure. That's awesome. So what are like one or two small steps that you think someone in a similar situation could start with that would start to actually move them in the right direction?
I would say re-educate yourself on eating, and that is something that your course has. Is that it's all about education of, and it's just directly to the point. It's not like, long story, and then you talk about your childhood and, all these other things that are going, it's like directly related just to the material, meat and potatoes. You got 5 minutes to learn something new. And so the re-education of what food does is so easy to follow, because when you realize what the good foods are and what the neutral foods and the bad foods and how to eat them and what time of day and all, once you actually have those tools, you can see results right away. It's not even difficult to understand. So that's one thing. Another thing would be, I couldn't think of another thing. I think that you need somebody like a professional to kind of do this, with. So
Did you find it like useful to like understand more about Epstein-Barr and how Epstein-Barr is the root cause of autoimmune conditions like Hashimoto's, and then how food interacts with Epstein-Barr and how you can kind of use that to stay focused on what foods you need to eat in order to heal?
yeah, the more that I'm learning about little things, like even like the coconut oils and stuff like that, really simple swaps, in the diet. I don't even feel like I'm not eating or not making the food. I'm just switching like the way that I'm eating, So understanding, yeah, that eggs. I mean, those are just basic things, right? Eggs, like dairy, gluten. Those are just like, tier one, in program of the foods. But yeah, once you even stop something like that, then you're like, wow, this is really working. You're like, okay, well, what else is working? Like, how far can we go with it, right? And you start feeling better the further that you go, which is kind of like benefit, because you're feeling good, you have more energy, all your symptoms are going down to zero. It almost starts to make it like fun and challenging at the same time, because you're like, okay, well, let's go further because this is working. And again, the game is, for me at my age, is like, health, liver health, right, specifically, and then obviously getting off the medication, but also like longevity. You know what I mean? I don't want to be crippled over when I'm 93. I want to be like one of those fabulous people that looks like, 70 at like 90 or something. So, the sooner that I start taking care of my body. So really, it's a big change. Like, it's a big curve, like in what people are learning and stuff like that right now, because they're learning about, like, supplements and deparasitation and like getting rid of the heavy metals, and everything is so isolated. It feels like you're like pulling all these bottles off the shelf, and you're carrying all these bottles, and you're not even sure what you are making. You just have all these bottles of stuff, right? So, with your program too, it's like you're utilizing and you're learning for life, right? So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. One last question from me. What would you tell someone who might be listening to this who's feeling discouraged because they've tried other programs, other diets, other supplements, and really not gotten the results that they wanted to with their Hashimoto's, with their thyroid health? What's an important message for someone who's in that position?
Um, it's not a life sentence. That's like probably the first thing I would say, because I never really believed it deep down inside, which is why I kept looking and I tried so many things. But it's not a life sentence, you can reverse it. You can definitely get off the medication, and being with somebody that can help you, guide you to the point where you're not getting sick at the same time, you're building strength and immunity. is the biggest thing. So, don't be discouraged. Make sure that you at least try food as the option, especially with the Epstein-Barr virus and everything else that can make you feel sick and gross and stuff like that. So definitely it's not a life sentence. I've tried everything. I've paid so much money for other programs. I was relentless on my healing, and now I am healed, not healed in a way that I'm, my blood work is normal and that the doctors took me off the medication. I'm healed as in, like, I get up and I feel good every day. Like, I feel like I could go for a walk. I feel like I can do the things that I couldn't do before because I was so inflamed. It's like asking somebody that, is a burn victim to get up and do 10 jumping jacks. It's like, it's not gonna, it's just not gonna happen. So yeah, don't get discouraged. It's not a life sentence. Definitely look into diet. It can fix so many issues. And sticking with the Epstein-Barr and the shingles virus, all these other viruses, and then you'll have good success. Yeah, and thank you too for all your continued support and your support.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, one more point I forgot. Did you see other things like gut health, anxiety, sleep? Did you see other symptoms kind of improve as we went about addressing the root cause?
Yeah, right away, the bloating like went almost down to zero right away. The feeling of emptiness, like I never really felt like my stomach was empty, like it wasn't even talking or gurgling. That is gone. Constipation, diarrhea, that is a thing of the past. Brain fog, I'm still working on, just, I'm continually eliminating toxins, right? Um, my nail was deformed from malnutrition. That is growing normal. Like, if that doesn't speak volumes about how this is changing a life, you know what I mean? Like, it will change your body, you know what I mean? Your body will follow with that too. There's just so many other things that I noticed. I had toenail fungus, it's like, I mean, it's no secret, a lot of people have it, but that is gone. Like, actually my nails are so much thicker because I don't drink. Like, you told me one thing, like, hopefully this isn't like a spoiler alert, you can always edit this. You told me one thing about milk, simply put, is that milk will just keep you from absorbing nutrients. If somebody had told me that 5, 6, 10 years, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I would have just stopped drinking milk. So even something as simple as that, like my nails, like, are actually growing, and that's the first time in my life. So yeah, lots of great benefits.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing.